Hello, Southwest Florida homeowners and homebuyers. Welcome to the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, your go-to source for navigating the vibrant real estate landscape of our beautiful region. I'm your host, Kevin Tremmel, a local real estate agent, leader, and investor here in Southwest Florida. On this podcast, we bring you insights from best in the business, top-notch real estate professionals, seasoned agents, and experts of everything from homeowners insurance to mortgages, maintenance, and repairs. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned homeowner, we've got you covered with tips, strategies, and valuable insights to make your journey in Southwest Florida's real estate market a breeze. Get ready to unlock the doors to successful home ownership. This is the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast, where we demystify the process, share insider knowledge, and ensure you're well equipped to make informed decisions. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we have a special guest. We have George Oberdorster with us today. He is a top real estate agent for Real Brokerage, and he services all of our beautiful Southwest Florida area. He also leads his own team called Red Hot Naples. He has a total of 16 years real estate experience, and he has an intense focus and prides himself on customer service. Welcome to the show, George.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited for this opportunity.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for your time. I know you're busy, so I just want to thank you for your time right from the start. So, George, why don't you kind of tell us and the audience a little bit about your real estate story? How did you get into real estate and why?
We'll actually start off that I worked in the restaurant business, and I had a lot of people ask me to jump into real estate during the boom, 2004, 2005. And I am very competitive in nature. But I also am fully understanding that if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And I am not overly religious, but I'm very spiritual. And at that time in 2004, 2005, I said, that's fine. They were all pumping me up to try and get my real estate license. I was great at what I did in the restaurant business. I actually went and took the real estate test. Now, full disclosure, I suffer from ADHD, squirrel, that's me. I'm very hyper, but also dyslexia runs in my genes, and it is what it is. So I battle with a lot of ailments when it comes to education, but also testing. I was never good in testing in middle school and high school. My tests were so bad, ACT and ACT, that I went to community school, but then transferred and graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University. So taking the real estate test, it already is hard, and it really has a high failure rate. I actually failed it 3 times. And playing baseball, I believed in the 3-strike rule. And
right.
I ended up saying, you know what, it's not cut out for me. I'm not going to do it. 2007, my mom passes away. I do some deep soul searching within myself, and I had a lot of goals, a lot of aspirations. 2008, of course, the wrong time ever to do it. I jumped into the loan officer MLO, and I did that for about 3.5 years, and it wasn't right for me. At that time, I had good leadership. I had good training. But it was the worst time for a loan officer to get into the business. And for me, it just wasn't a passion. You know, I thought it was going to be a great idea, but I didn't fail at it. I ended up just leaving voluntarily, saying I wasn't interested in it. Now, do I give more respect and props to LOs now? Oh, yes. They work hard for their money, just like most real estate professionals do, home inspectors do. Everybody that's linked to real estate as an industry, we all work very hard for our money. No matter what the outsiders think that we make too much money, they don't see the true pain points that we suffer through. So after doing that, I went into a little bit of real estate consulting. And no, I didn't jump into real estate or selling real estate without a license, but I had a lot of friends, a lot of high net worth individuals that looked to me to say, hey, you know Naples more than I do. I'm in Virginia. I'm in Chicago. Please tell me about the market. I'll tell them about the market, and then I would give them to agents locally. Well, after about 1.5 years, 2 years, my investors and friends and family who I was dishing referrals to, just because I was trying to line them up with good people, they were unhappy with the other agents. They were unhappy with the agents not communicating, not knowing the skills needed to successfully complete a transaction. And it was just a laundry list of items. So finally, a lot of pressure and people said, George, you'd be a great real estate agent. Why don't you get your license? That's where it started. In 2013, I was working as a server in a local restaurant where I worked for over 10 years. And I loved that. It was so much fun. But with fun, there was a lot of pain. And anybody listening to this, understanding the restaurant market or restaurant business and how it works, very cutthroat, just like any other industry, but you're an employer instead of, or an employee instead of an employer. And I was sick and tired of being an employee, having a target on my back all the time, so forth. It was a pain point that drove me into real estate. And I actually failed the test two more times. So I failed the test over two different, I would say almost a decade apart, five times.
Wow.
Finally, the third time when I took the test, I was laughing because I went in there and I was so amped up. And I'm like, I'm going to pass it this time or else I'm not going to do real estate. That's what my mindset was. And the instructor hands me the piece of paper and goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I flip over the paper and it says pass. I looked at her and she goes, I'm not going to be seeing you again. And I'm like,
Aw,
so bad. I'm like, thank you. And I walked out
nice.
and I was on cloud nine after. So that's my story about my journey getting into real estate.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you for sharing that. And I especially appreciate you not giving us the short version, right? The easy version.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, I got my license in 2013. It's been smooth ride ever since. So, and you kind of alluded to this, right? Like real estate and, a lot of other industries as well, obviously, but real estate is what we know. And real estate is a lot of hurdles, a lot of stuff that can go wrong. So looks like you had a little bit of red tape involved to even get into the industry. So it prepped you for what the last 10 years have been. And then one thing as well, that you mentioned, I think it's very important, or not important, it's not a must have, but I think it probably helps you in your daily business that you do have an LO background, right? Like you can have a conversation with an LO now and kind of ask those tougher questions, especially if you're representing a seller and you have a conversation with the buyer's LO. You know what to ask. Hey, is this deal going to stick, or are we just like spinning our wheels here for 3 weeks? And, are we going to cancel this? So that definitely must be helpful. Would you agree with that? That background has kind of set you up for success in being a realtor?
Yeah, totally. The understanding, because it's funny. Some people, it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Some people don't understand if should they go to an LO and then find an agent or find an agent and go with an LO. For me, I tell everybody start with an agent because in most cases, top agents surround themselves with top professionals. Unfortunately, there are many times where I've had buyers in the past that started off with an LO who's not based in Florida, in another state, that doesn't lend over here often. And there's a lot of friction when that happens. And
Right.
I can make it as smooth as possible. I tell everybody, listen, we're going to embark on a journey and there's going to be bumps and some roadblocks ahead, but I'm here to lessen the stress, but also save you time during this process while protecting you and your assets. And then they really appreciate that. Because I totally believe in doing business with truth and transparency and letting people just understand that you're in great hands. I will go above and beyond and I will do whatever it takes to get you across that finish line. I'll either put you in my back or I'll drag you across one way or the other. We'll do it together as long as you're motivated and understand that it's not going to be easy.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's a great point. And I feel like most people naturally, in my experience, they approach a real estate agent first because I think it's a little bit more approachable than to go to your bank and ask for an LO or submit your blood type and your social security number on some weird website online. I feel like most people, it's more intuitive to search out an agent first. And then, like you said, high performers surround themselves with other high performers, right? So I love what you said. So 2013, you start real estate, and that was in Naples, right? Like that's where you started, and that's where you've been ever since, or did you
So the funny
start?
story of that is I've lived in Naples now. August 18th will be 32-year anniversary. I moved
Wow.
down before Hurricane Andrew, and that was my welcome to Florida. We came from the Northeast. I was born in New York, lived in Connecticut. But realistically, down here, how I found my journey was I was pointed to a gentleman who was getting ready to start a brokerage. I interviewed with about three or four other brokerages, and then I took a chance. I took a chance on somebody that had a big vision, big passion, and I started with that company as agent number one the day they were incorporated and started January 1 of 2014.
Wow, nice. That's awesome. So you told us how you got into real estate, kind of the years that led up to it. How has your experience been over the last 10 years and how has that kind of evolved? Tell us what happened after you got your license on the sixth attempt. What's happened after that?
So I tell everybody, and it's not for the faint at heart. As you know, that 70% of agents fail their first year and 87% fail in their first 3 years. In my mindset, my biggest thing in my head was I need to be a part of Club 13. And me being as competitive as I am, I have a strong willpower to succeed and win. Plus, at the time, when I first jumped into real estate, I had 2 children, a mortgage, a girlfriend at the time, which turned into my fiance and now my wife. And yeah, I've been to hell and back twice. But when I say that, I say it with a smile on my face because there were some traumatic things that happened where I thought I was going to fail. And I overcame those obstacles. And I tell anyone and everybody who's interested in real estate or if you are in real estate, if you align yourself with great people, culture, collaboration, leadership, a great broker, friends, and really give back to the community, I believe in givers gain, they'll take care of you. And you just got to really do whatever it takes to be nice, work hard, and then you'll be successful.
Yeah, nice. I kind of piggybacking off of that. So I had a similar story. So I started at Keller Williams and I did real estate right after college. I got my degree and then have never used it since. And, the typical story. But in the beginning, kind of what you said, right? Like surround yourself with other successful people. When I got into real estate, I mean, young guy, like I just wanted to do it myself, like me, I can do this kind of thing. And then looking back at it now, I'm 7 years into business and I get a lot of questions. I'm sure you do as well. Like, hey, I want to get in real estate. What do you recommend? Where do I start? And now looking back, if I were to redo it again, I would probably have joined a team early on. I had some opportunities too. I made some good connections in my local office down there in Naples and I had some good opportunities. But my mindset was like, you know how you are, mid-20s, like you can conquer the world, you know everything, right? You just got your bachelor's degree, blah, 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 blah. So sounds like you're on the same page with me there, that when someone approaches you, maybe there's some newer agents listening to this as well, cling to somebody that can be a mentor and a team leader and that has some experience that you can learn from. Because one thing, the real estate stuff or the real estate school, the stuff you learn in there is not how the real world is. Yes, you learn like the law basics and like that kind of stuff, but it doesn't teach you about lead gen. It doesn't teach you about conversion. It doesn't teach you about like how to work with sellers, buyers, investors, all that stuff, how to do like a proper CMA, right? I mean, would you agree that if you were to kind of redo it all over again, you maybe have gotten the team route as well, or where are you at with that?
So basically, I tell anyone you have 3 different directions that you can go into. You can go into, I'm going to do it solo, but I'm going to align myself with a great broker or mentor leadership. Okay. Now, that is the most risky because you have to be motivated enough to get up every day. You need to hold yourself accountable because, brokers and mentors do to an extent. But the avenue that you said, I've seen the most agents succeed either doing 2 things, joining the team and or hiring a coach right off the bat. The thing I do see is a lot of agents come in with the employee mindset and not a budget because a lot of gurus and everything, they say, oh, all you need is 6 months of your bills paid and you'll be fine. You'll have enough time to be successful in real estate. That money evaporates faster than water. I tell everybody, you need to really prepare yourself with 6 months of your living expenses and 6 months of potential money. Because just imagine being a business owner and opening up a Walmart, but you don't have enough money to put products on the shelves or hire staff to check people out. What's going to happen? You're going to fail. Same thing in real estate. If you don't have systems in place and you don't have leads, you're sitting there and it's just crickets around you. So many agents, unfortunately, think it's $1 million listing and you're going to get in it and, oh, the money, easy. I call them the easy money zombies of the industry. And those are the people that fail. Yeah,
I agree. Everybody thinks it's easy, right? Until they also realize that there's about 15,000 other agents in Collier County that have had the same idea. So yeah, and you mentioned you dropped the word lead. As we know, that's kind of what makes the world go around, right? You can have the best CRM, the best relationships with LOs and title companies and all that. If there's no leads, then there's no business. And I think as time goes on and your business matures, repeat and referral business becomes more of a pillar of that lead generation. Obviously, you have more clients, more past clients. So I'd like to hear from you, George. What strategies do you use to maintain long-term relationships with clients that kind of generate repeat and referral business? Is there anything in particular?
So for me, I'm very heavy on social media. Between 9 different social media outlets, I have over 50,000 followers. It wasn't overnight. It's been a long, long grind. I always tell everybody, we're in a marathon, we're not in a sprint. So just be patient. And when you're patient, you can really showcase your passion for what you do and how you do things. And people really enjoy that. So for me, building that book of business or connecting people, I always tell everybody, you got to be an edutainer. You got to educate, but you got to entertain at the same time. You got to keep people not only motivated, but focused. And you got to keep them. So I have some wonderful people that are getting ready to come down from North Carolina right now. And I've been working with them for a year. They had their home listed. They failed. I got them a referral agent. That agent successfully closed on it about 3-4 months ago. And now they're looking to relocate to Southwest Florida. And they cannot believe, they're like, George, you ever sleep? And then we call, we text. They actually just texted me right before we started the podcast. And most customers or clients that start out with me, they end up being like family. With over 300 closed transactions, literally there's only about 2 or 3 people I've ever said, don't call me. I never want to talk to you again. And it doesn't. You can't make everybody happy in this industry. And a lot of people are, sometimes they're dishonest. They'll take your time, and we can always make more money, but we can never get time back. So for me, it's very hard to find the right partnership when I'm working with buyers and sellers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with the time back, that probably gets more important as you have a lovely family like yourself, right? That it's all fine in your 20s, maybe early 30s, but once you have children, I feel like I don't have children yet, but that's what I hear, right? Time becomes more important than money. So I hear you on that. There's a good book with energy suckers, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the nail on the head. So it sounds like you have a heavy focus on building long-term relationships for referrals, repeat business, all that kind of stuff. What are some, we heard earlier in the introduction, pride yourself on customer service. And I definitely get that vibe from you as well, that always available, call you at 9:30 with an emergency, like you're there, right? That's not an invitation for George's clients to call him at 9:30, by the way. But, you can tell you really pride yourself on that. What are some other key qualities that you think set you apart in this very competitive real estate market down here in Southwest Florida, George?
I believe in technology and trying to leverage as much as possible. Also, I really love video. I've dabbled in video over the last 5 to 10 years in real estate, but I haven't set it as a majority factor where I'm starting to pivot my business. Because what I've realized, especially over the last 10 or 20 months, is that there's 2 different types to ways to run your business. It is the chase them method of real estate or the chase me method of real estate. And now, after being 10 years into the business, I'm going to focus away from chase them and create chase me opportunities. And when I say that, let me provide some context, is that social media is really good because somebody will like something and you'll offer something of value and they will click on and give you their name, their phone number, their email. That's a warm lead that comes in. You reach out to them, you go back and forth. A lot of my mentors and especially agents at my own brokerage really do a fantastic job on the media scale. So marketing is one division, but media is the other. I have some people that have little teeny tiny YouTube channels with 5,000 subscribers, not many video views, 300 to 1,000 a video. And they're making $1 million a year in this industry. And I have a couple of friends of mine who are team leaders throughout the country, Canada and Florida and other states. And literally, they have YouTube channels between 10 and 50,000 subscribers with 8, 10 million video views. And their team one person, which I won't name the location or the person, their team made $8 million last year. 5 million came from YouTube. And then when I asked them for all the breakdowns and all the, because I want to learn. And a lot of agents in this industry keep everything to themselves and don't share anything. There's a lot of great agents in the industry saying, here's the blueprint, because they want to make the industry better. They want to help their fellow agents. And I'm that type of person. Locally in town, if you ask me any questions, what are your leads? Excuse me. What are your lead sources and all that stuff? I'll give you 85, 90% of my blueprint on a silver platter. Now, other agents in other areas, I give 100% because they're not my direct competition.
Right.
I try and think bigger picture. Even if I trained 100 agents locally with the volume of business that's always happening in Southwest Florida, they're not really competition because we sell 700 to 1,000 homes every 7 days. So I know I'm not, well, some weeks I might sell 2 or 3 homes in 1 week, but I know that my best month ever, I sold 11 homes in 30 days. But it just doesn't, I can't sustain that pace where I'm at with my current structures. That's why I'm onboarding employees as we speak this month and next month.
Nice. Yeah, I think what you're trying to allude to is, there's enough business for everybody. So, yeah, I mean, sharing some nuggets doesn't hurt nobody, right? And I agree. I'm the same way. I have other agents sometimes that I'm friendly with calling me from other brokerages because their broker might be busy or it's just not set up in a training sort of way. I mean, I have friends and agents call me from other agencies looking for my advice and I give it to them, even though they're at other brokerages. Like I'm sure they would return the favor one day, everybody has their like strengths and weaknesses and whatever. So yeah, I agree with that. So you said social media, but to kind of take it one step further, you said most importantly is like video and YouTube and like video format. Did I understand that like correctly?
Yeah, because you can still do video on Instagram. You can still do video on Facebook. I think that agents, not only are we going and entering into, it's not just a skill-based market temporarily, it's going to be a skill-based market with everything that's changing with the DOJ and the settlement and all this stuff. The basic principles and the responsibilities of agents are now going to be challenged but elevated, and the strongest agents are going to thrive, while a lot of the agents who were barely surviving will potentially go away. Last year, there was some hiccups in the industry. 75,000 agents left, but 35,000 more came in. There's always going to be a churn of new blood coming into the industry, but I know of a lot of agents who are 10, 15, 20 years in the business saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm burnt out. And then they just retire. But then that opens up the market for agents like myself who are in the midway point of their career, and that there's buyers and sellers that are orphans because that person who just retired could have served 1,000 people over their career. And those 1,000 people, they might refer agents to them, but those other people are now saying, well, Dina, my agent for the last 10 years and 3 properties just retired. I'll take Dina's suggestion, but I'm going to hire or interview 2 other agents. And I happen to be sometimes one of those agents. And now I'm building those relationships with those people because their agent is no longer around or in the industry.
Yeah, I like that. I've never thought about it that way. Orphan sellers and buyers, and especially where we're at, Collier County, Lee County. The median age of these counties tend to be a little bit higher. So there's probably an over proportionate amount of agents that retire every year just because people retire here. That's what people do down here. So I definitely like that. And I would like to get your take. I wasn't going to really bring this up, but since you mentioned it, what do you think about this whole NAR settlement thing? Do you think it's as bad as the media portrays it, or what are your thoughts real briefly? We don't have to unpack the whole settlement over the next hour, but what do you think about it?
I was going to say, literally, if we had the time, I could speak about it for 3 hours, but let's go with the cliff notes. I think, unfortunately, the National Association of Realtors actually let us down as members of the organization. I think they could have done a much better job. And I think when you really look at the 30,000 point view of what happened, what transpired, and everything else. When I say this, I give it with the most respect because my father-in-law is a retired attorney. One of my best friends is a real estate attorney, friend of mine. Attorneys, like any industry, there's the great ones and then there's the lousy ones. And unfortunately, from the attorney standpoint, I believe it was just a very big cash grab because with all the reports that I see, the attorneys are the ones that won. The people that they represented are not winning. Why? Because every single person per the settlements are only going to average $10 or less. To me,
Right.
that's not compensation.
Yeah.
Now, you look at what the attorneys are basically making. I think the last report I saw was $77 million. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that they just created a smooth platform and now just open it up to extreme fragmentation. So what do I mean by that? Now, because it's been a cycle where people say, and this is where I have another person that wants to debate me on Zoom about it, and we're going to try and record it next week, is that they're like, well, the sellers have been paying both people. Really think about that statement. The sellers hired somebody. The sellers were never with a gun to their head saying that you have to sign this contract. Okay, so they were never threatened. Sellers have always had the opportunity to go for sale by owner, flat fee brokerage, like Zillow or third party websites out there. They've always had the flexibility to choose. And the last time I checked on the MLS, there's always been different commissions, no matter if it's new construction, resale. So for them to say that the price fixing and 3% was a standard, 6% was a standard with the code broke, it was never a standard. If somebody came in and audited all 300 plus transactions of mine, you're going to see a vast array of different commissions, literally. Now, there's going to be a majority, like anything else, like attorneys charging $350, $450, $550 an hour. There's a majority that charge that same price point. I charge a certain commission for most of my deals, but not all of my deals. So that's where I think NAR kind of failed the agent side. And I think the buyers and sellers are going to lose out even worse. Why? Of all the news and all the headlines, all of them are clickbaity. They always paint the worst picture out there. That's why I don't watch the news anymore. But really, it's going to come down to sellers are still going to pay commissions in the long run. Some sellers are going to try and get away from paying commissions, and that's fine. But people need to know and understand buyers are not going to win that way. Why? Because buyers now, some of them, VAs or first-time home buyers who just saved enough, 3.5% down FHA, 3 to 5 or 10% down. Now closing costs. Now you're going to add agent costs on top of it.
Yeah.
It's really going to hurt. And when I say fragmented, think about now being a seller. You sell and you don't pay a commission. All right. Or let's say you do pay a commission and you're paying a commission, your agent advised you to, but now on the buy side, that seller is not paying a commission. Now you're forced to pay your agent. That's where the fragmentation is going to come into play. And that's where I don't think it's fair. Like realistically, anybody with common sense that looks at it and then kind of going back, do the sellers really pay the commissions? They don't. Why? Because for a transaction to happen, a buyer must pay for the home and the seller then takes some of the proceeds. The buyer is paying both the commissions the whole time. And nobody brought that up during the litigation. And that's what really pees me off at times.
Yeah. And one thing, so I have very kind of similar view on this. Number one, the whole buyer broker agreement now required. I mean, I think it's just important to know that's a document that's been in existence for, ever since I've been in real estate. And top agents, like one of the first things I got preached by my broker, like first 2 months in real estate was whenever you work with a buyer, get this document signed. Okay, now it's required. If anything, some buyer's agents should be celebrating because it makes the conversation so much easier. It used to be like, hey, I really need you to sign this. Now it's like, hey, it's required by law. Everywhere you're going to go, you're going to sign this. So that's one thing. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. And then the other thing with the whole like commissions can't be advertised anymore. It's concessions still can. At the end of the day, like you said, I still think the sellers are going to pay for it because, like you said, right, first-time home buyer buying a $400,000 home, FHA, you're looking at 12 grand for down payment. You're looking at, let's just call it 8 grand for your underwriting, appraisal, processing fees, whatever you name it, you're 20 grand. Now you want a first-time home buyer, right? Affordability is already a concern. You read it everywhere, rates, affordability, whatever. Now you want your first-time home buyers to pay another 12 grand in buyer's commissions, like 32 grand to like just get into a very basic home. Like, no way. It's just, I think what they wanted to do and what's going to happen is there's just going to be more of a conversation about it, right? There's not going to be a standard, an industry standard. There's going to be a conversation to be had, but I don't think it's going to change at the end of the day how the money flows. And, last thing I just want to mention, like you said, commissions have always been negotiable. And yes, there's certain standards, but it's just when you walk into a car dealership and you see a price advertised at $50,000, the car dealership is not going to negotiate against itself like, oh, hey, I know it was advertised for 50, but we're going to give it to you for 47, right? That's on the buyer's side to say, hey, will you do 47? And those conversations have always happened, and sounds like you as well. There is a conversation to be had, right? Like my commissions don't all look the same across the board. I mean, there's friends, there's family, there's repeat business, there's higher end luxury, business where 2% of a million is better than 3% off 300,000. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's blown a little bit out of proportion. And once the adjustment period happens by the end of this year, I think in a year from now, it'll be the new norm and everybody will have kind of forgotten about it. But just wanted to know your opinion. So it looks like we're on the same page. Went out a little bit on a tangent. So you've been doing this for one other question that I had for you. You've been doing this for 10 years and you've been in Naples for a long time, right? So you've seen, my dad came to Naples in the early 90s. And when my earliest memory of Naples was in August, you can walk on 41, right? Like that's how dead it was. And I'm sure you remember that as well. All the like little mom and pop restaurants would close pretty much from June to October. And obviously that's not the case anymore. So have you seen a lot of like investors flock to Collier County and maybe even first time investors, people that maybe even are stuck at like a 2.5% rate that want to buy a new home, but instead of selling their home, they're renting out their home. Have you seen a lot of those changes? And, what advice do you have for non-seasoned investors? Because I've seen a lot of that. First time investors that are renting out their homes or even people that are moving from somewhere else and, they're selling their $900,000 home in New Jersey and they realize that they can get something brand new here for 450. Well, what do they do with the other 450, right? So any advice there or have you seen that shift as well? And, give us the scoop on that, George.
So right now I represent 8 different investors and those 8 investors have different investment styles. Some of them are buy and short-term rental specialists, hence the Airbnbs and VRBOs. And then about 3 of them are pure multifamily. Duplex, triplex, quadplexes, long-term holds. One of them I know has 44 doors. And it's one of those things that for any investor, especially if you're coming to Florida from another state, you got to align yourself with the top agent because that top agent will have a top synergy team behind them. I actually have a brand new investor. We're looking to close June 13th or 12th. And basically, I'm helping them out with everything on a silver platter. They're buying a beautiful home in Cape Coral, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool. And it's slated to make about $60,000 a year on Airbnb. I've already set them up with property management, handyman to go in and do some repairs in the house after they close, some updates, some upgrades. But then I set them up with my own technology company, a friend of mine who created some software to help manage Airbnbs. And hopefully, if all goes well, August, September, we'll be launching a product where potential investors can self-manage their properties at a very high level. The investor friend of mine owns 2 technology companies, and he actually went to me and he said, George, he goes, I want to sell my Airbnb with my 5-star ratings. And it was almost like a business in a box. And I'm
right.
Like, genius. And then he showed me his technology. I go, what third-party company is that? He's like, I created that. I'm like, wow. 20 hours I did it and everything's automated. I'm like, we could sell that, right? And it's genius. But I will tell investors that you really want to have somebody that has deep knowledge, like natives like ourselves in the industry that sell real estate at a high level, because we get presented some of the best deals also off market before they come on the market.
Yeah.
Literally 2 deals dropped on my lap yesterday on a silver platter, and I'm already going to send it out to my database and my investors because I think they're extremely good potential upside for them.
Yeah, and we know a good deal when we see it, right? And I'm sure you've been in that boat as well. Sometimes I get a listing or I see a deal and I want to buy it myself so bad, but I'm already under contract somewhere else. And so, what better way to blow that to your database? I feel like if you think it's a good deal, like you're able to convey that belief and you have more conviction behind it. But well, George, to wrap it up, we heard how you got into real estate, right? Your struggles there with the test taking. We heard how it's gone for the last 10 years, how it is now. To kind of wrap it up, I just want to, look ahead. We're always trying to grow, always trying to better ourselves. What are your goals for your real estate career and the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years?
So for me, I think the future looks bright, even though there's a lot of people that are saying there's a lot of gloom and doom happening now and in the near future, especially being an election year. For me, I try and look past that. Look past the noise, look for your North Star, work for your North Star. And for me, my day of retirement is slated on my board, and my wife knows it, my family knows it. And it's important if you have children to have them support you along your journey and understand that, this is what you do. And these are sometimes sacrifices. Real estate is the best, how can I say? Everybody says, I want to get into real estate. I want a flexible thing, a flexible career or job. It can be flexible at times, but sometimes you do have to make sacrifices to miss out on some birthdays or some performances or so forth. But I have a cool little thing in my family where my little 5-year-old gets excited because every 4 homes I sell, I take them on 4 days vacation, no matter how big. So that's my way to gain support through my family and to incentivize them to support me. And we create amazing memories. And some weeks and some years, we've taken 7 and 9 weeks off out of a 52-week year. So we've created many memories. Some of my best years, we've done that. And even this year now, we're getting ready to leave on 2 back-to-back vacations because I had a great quarter and I want to incentivize and give them back. But April 11th, 2035, I will be 55 years old, and that's when I'm going to hit the button for retirement. And I'm working towards that through my brokerage, through building a team right now, and potentially launching a media company at the end of this year or next year. And that's it, really. Every agent needs to sit down, focus on why they're doing it and how they're going to do it. And then as long as they stay consistent and motivated, one of my favorite sayings is, you got to risk it for the biscuit. So you have to try your best to do whatever it takes. And no matter how many times you knock down, you just got to get up faster every single time.
Yeah, man, love that. Thanks for sharing that. I just want to, before we say our goodbyes, I just want to appreciate the honesty. You really showed up. And like I said, you didn't give us the easy version. You really shared some insights. So I just want to thank you for that. And I want to help you hit your retirement date. So if someone wants to reach out to you, buying, selling, investing real estate, but also maybe some newer agents, it sounds like you said earlier, you're in recruiting mode, growth mode. Anybody that has any questions or maybe even wants to join, how can they get in touch with you? Of course, we'll link all the socials, but if you want to drop email or phone number or both, how can someone get in touch?
So I'll give you my digital business card, easy for people to find me, but also link up with all my socials. But you can always reach me personally on my personal line, 239-216-1386. If you want to email me, george@redhotnaples.com. And if you want to look for properties or help you from the real estate standpoint, always check out redhotnaples.com.
Awesome, George. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I'm sure you got a lot to do here this afternoon, so I want to thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I love giving back whenever I can.
Awesome, George. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of the 239 Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable knowledge to enhance your home ownership journey here in Southwest Florida. A big thank you to our incredible guests and of course to you, our listeners, for joining us. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to connect, feel free to reach out. You can find us on Instagram at Kevin Tremmel _real estate, on Facebook at Kevin Tremmel Real Estate, or visit our website, kevintremmel.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback is crucial and we're always eager to hear from you. Until next time, this is Kevin Tremmel, your host, signing off. See you on the next episode.